Yet another elections in Bihar has the whole country excited about the outcome because it's the only state where elections are being held and also the poorest. On this edition of Yashoism, I discuss Bihar with three other Biharis. No, it's not the election outcome we are talking about. As Pranay Roy says, 56% of the predictions about Bihar polls go wrong. Is the maximum for any state. We will but converse about the historical handicap Bihar faces, its challenges on the economic and social front, its poor governance, and low expectations of the voters. And finally, is there a way out for Bihar? Why has Bihar stayed behind? The first was the British permanent settlement of 1973, which turned farmers into tenants and zamindars into tax collectors. It just killed the incentive to improve land productivity, leaving Bihar with very, very poor output and deep rural poverty. Industry that never came. In 1952, the freight equalization policy made coal and iron from Bihar as cheap in Punjab or Gujarat as at the mine. Factories went west, and Bihar became the mine without a mill. Decades of governance paralysis, of political churn and corruption hollowed out the administration. From files to policing, Bihar became the textbook case of a state present on paper but absent on the ground. Crime soared, Bahubalis ruled, and mafia reigned supreme. Politics got trapped in caste arithmetic rather than performance. Social justice opened doors for many, but it also turned identity into the only ticket to power. Year after year, floods from the Kosi and Gandak washed away crops and hopes alike. Irrigation, storage, and crop insurance never matched the scale of disaster. And when Jharkhand split in 2000, Bihar lost its coalfields, industries, and royalty revenue. The parent state was left with people, but not the minerals or factories that sustained them. The Bihar paradox is decades of distorted policy, poor governance, and a geography which conspired to hold Bihar back. Its people moved ahead, but the state never really caught up. So where does Bihar go from here? Another election? Another coalition? But the basic issues remain the same. Every 5 years, Biharis elect a government which doesn't fulfill their aspirations. Jobs, stopping migration of labor, stable law and order, more investment creating opportunities, better infrastructure, and a major fearless drive against corruption and rule of mafia in education, coal, cooperatives, sand, and other minerals as was started in 1988 under Bhupendra Chaubey Azad as Chief Minister. If Bihar government ensures that schools, colleges, universities function uninterrupted, trains, metro, buses run on time without chain pulling, hospitals and primary health centers deliver care and pure medicines, central and state schemes are delivered to the beneficiary without hassle or money, tourism is developed as a major industry with better infrastructure all around, getting in more investment by improving law and order, and acquiring more sources of income by abandoning prohibition, and finally modernizing its antiquated government law enforcement and other agencies, then Bihar will certainly look up. Or is it a tall order? I have three Biharis from three different walks of life with me for this discussion. Chandrachur Singh, he is the professor of political science in Hindu College. I have Vimal Kirti Singh, an IAS officer who left and is now a lawyer with the Supreme Court. And I have Chinki Sinha. She's editor of Outlook. My first question to you, Vimal. This historical baggage which Bihar carries, how much of a burden it has been, and how much has it really progressed now when we talk about development?
Since you use the word baggage, we have a lot of history and baggage. The good history goes to Buddha, good history goes to Chanakya, the good history goes to Vaishali. But then came the British rule and all kinds of legislation, the kind of land ownership which was given to zamindari system. And subsequently, the wealth of Bihar went out, sucked out, and we suffered. And then came the independence. And after independence, this freight equalization hurt us very badly.
Yes.
Remember that at that time, Bihar and Jharkhand were together, and Jharkhand had a lot of minerals. But now all kind of minerals were made available at the same price at all over India. And this advantage, which could have been an advantage for Bihar, did not convert into an advantage. And this freight equalization policy was ended in 1991. Now, if you look at Bihar, how we developed, we are talking about, migration, and we are talking about poverty, and we are talking about joblessness. All big industries in Bihar, if you look at it, I'm not criticizing any political party, and I'm not holding candles for anyone. But if you look at it, first 12 years, during the first chief minister's time, all the big industries in Bihar came. You can name HEC, you can name Bokaro Steel Limited, Dalmia Cement, Barauni Refinery. All big units came in those 62 years. Then there was a period where the leadership was probably, this is my analysis, I may be wrong, but the leadership was not strong enough to get big industries or even middle-level industries. And then 1990, because of the oppression of caste system and oppression of a certain section of the population, this politics of caste, after representation, getting leadership from a particular group, 1990 to now 2025, we are in vortex of casteism. Pre-election, it is you are making a mathematics of who is how many percent. Post-election, you are distributing portfolios in percentage of that. So the thought whereby we have to address the real issue, that how we can actually make Bihar progress, has gone into a background, and it is all kept at the caste level.
Okay. Let me take that question to you, Chandrachur. You're a professor of political science. How do you think this social arithmetic has played out in Bihar's course of development, both social fault lines and also economic development?
I think, for a student of politics and particularly political economy, Bihar represents a strange paradox. And why would I say a paradox? Because you had inherently unstable periods of political rule in Bihar, and you had no development, you had stable rules, and you had no development. So, a lot of people in the literature would say, well, if you have a lot of political instability, you don't have development. So have political stability. Now look at Bihar, the last 40 years almost. We had fairly stable kind of government in the sense that only two chief ministers, barring a few months of exception. So we're having only two chief ministers have ruled, and that also from that whole idea of social justice groups, which really came on center stage. And yet you see where the data is, and the data tells you the story. I think I'll quite agree with Mr. Singh, and when he says there's a historical baggage from where you started. I think Bihar has been a fit case to frame it some kind of an internal colonialism. I would rather want to say that. So there has been some kind of a prejudice, particularly against Bihar, and it might have had to do with the role that a lot of Biharis at least played in the independence movement and how politics shaped in the post-independence period. So where you had, and then it's not just that, a lot of people would say it was upper caste domination. I mean, yes, apparently yes, because the leadership was with the upper caste. But, you also see the kind of formation of the backward caste movement, which happened, just during the independence period. And in the post-independence period as well. So you had the Janav Andolan, you had the Triveni Sangh, right? So that has been happening. So what you see is in Bihar, right, in the years preceding the independence till now, we've not settled between the quest for social justice, so to say, and economic empowerment. So we've been oscillating between the two, and that's where the plots are being lost.
Okay, Chinki, let me take the next question to you. You have many caste chieftains in Bihar, and you've written about the Bahubalis. They played a great role right from the times of independence, and you've been traveling all over Bihar. What is your assessment of the rise of the Bahubalis? Is it complete lack of governance, or it is responding to some of the demands which are coming from the from the ground?
In this case, both. Because I've been trying to track them since 2014, which is when I first met Anand Singh of Mokama. And there was a recent murder on October 30th of Dularchand Yadav at a Jan Suraj rally, and that led to Mr. Anand Singh being taken into custody, judicial custody. Now, if you look at it, it's actually interesting that Dularchand Yadav, who came from the Yadav community, which lives in Mokama Tal, which is a very impoverished kind of area with fields and everything. And on the other side, you have the Bhumihar dominated, the neighborhoods, which are very prosperous. Dularchand Yadav has been referred to as a dacoit or a bagi or something, and the upper caste would be Bahubali. Now, if you look at the ticket distribution this time, it's actually gone up, and there's a lot of this thing happening where they are saying Jangal Raj. I think the BJP has run out of narratives in that sense, and they are giving ads in the newspaper saying Jangal Raj. But if you don't even have to go back that much, but if you look at the current ticket distribution, you have Bahubalis from all the parties. I mean, RJD has 9. In fact, Jan Suraj also has. And where the Bahubalis are not contesting themselves because of the conviction in cases where they have been convicted, they have their wives and children. And this whole thing became very interesting when Mohammad Shahabuddin of Siwan, who died in prison in Bihar in 2021, his son has been given a ticket from the RJD. Now, that led to Mr. Amit Shah saying that this is a return to Jangal Raj, and that's when the whole pitch went really high. But what about Anand Singh? He's from JDU, has had the patronage of Mr. Nitish Kumar for the longest time, and there is this murder. There were murders in Purnia, there's Ritlal Yadav from RJD, from Danapur contesting. I have been traveling. It's really funny in Bihar that wherever you go, you see like 2 or 3, Bahubalis in the fray. And most of them are upper caste, most of them Bhumihars. Now, yes, failure of law and order, one. The rule of law was never really working in Bihar. And political violence actually has had a history from 1947 onwards. You've had instances of political violence from this party or that party, So there was what I have heard and what I've read is that there was a patronage given to these strongmen by political leaders to maintain their vote bank. And then after a point, these guys who are dons, they said that, okay, why not contest ourselves? And so this is what has happened. And they are Robin Hood figures. Wherever you go, there's a system failure, right? So they give you instant justice. They will sponsor marriages, mass weddings, all of those things. So that makes them very, very endearing to people. But of course, the people know that this happens. And the strangest thing is that people actually condone it. Also, they say that, wo dusre side wala koi acha aadmi to tha nahi, to theek hi hai maar diya to. Now, this is the state in Bihar, which is...
So you've served in Bihar, and what do you attribute this to? I mean, there is a virtual kind of a Gunda Raj in a particular district where they are dispensing justice. Does it mean that there is a complete failure of governance? Nobody has tried anything? Is it one of the reasons why the industry does not come to Bihar? There is no investment. How do you look at it holistically?
Chinki gave a very good explanation and narration. I'll just add few points here and there. What happens is that when you see a vast river of Ganges, then you ask, where is the source? Where is the source coming from? So in a dispensation where the top political leadership praises a antisocial element or a gunda, lets him be, admonishes the superintendent of police if he goes near that gunda, then what are we talking about? So if the top leadership has acquiesced to the existence of that gunda, and now he's not only taking help, as she rightly said, he's not only taking help from the gunda for, kind of spreading his regime, he's also making him a stakeholder in political ruling clan. So this is a system whereby they have not stopped. There could have been a scenario. In fact, this is very interesting. I would like to add, I was collector in Begusarai. The first booth capturing took place in Begusarai in 1957 in Matihani assembly seat. So this all started from there, So what I would try to add here is let's not go into this SP has not been able to control the district and why is this happening and all that. We have to ask a question directly, and all political parties have to answer this. You are under no compulsion to give ticket to Anand Singh. You are under no compulsion to give ticket to Osama. You can still get votes on your basis of your caste and religion. Why do you do this? And then you unleash these people. And this story goes further. As she rightly said, after you have unleashed, at one level they murder and create a terror amongst the people. On the other side, they also help. They do good work to become a Robin Hood. But why get into this murky affair? Our people will have to ask today or tomorrow that the politicians of this country when will they stop giving tickets to these criminals?
You may never has this been tried by any of the chief ministers to sort of attack the mafia or to smash the Bahubalis?
Now, if I say something, it should not be taken as making any political statement. But I see some of these states, like for example, Uttar Pradesh. There has been a stand where say that at least I can feel the perception that my intolerance to this kind of activity or people is very strong. Message goes down. Otherwise, what do you expect from the station house officer, SHO?
So I'll just add, just a bit of it. See, Bihar is a very different case if you compare Bihar with other North Indian states. Bihar is a case where the political outreach, or the outreach of political parties and political leaders to the masses has always been mediated kind of. So rather than political parties reaching directly to the masses through their organizational setups and their volunteers and their political, political rankers rather, they tried first to do with the upper caste landlord jamindars, and once that started fading down, I think they started getting into those so-called Robin Hoods, as we say. And what that meant was that if you reach the people through them, the naturality is that your institutions will start decaying and failing, so to say. On the one hand, you've had a kind of a political a struggle between the leaders from the forward caste, so to say, and you also are having the churn from the bottom. And as a result, you'll see that that led the entire state into some kind of a political instability, particularly after the death of the first chief minister. And that's where the forward caste started looking into some kind of support from the the second rung of the OBCs, particularly Chandrachur Singh and others, right? And that pushed the state entirely into some kind of a chaos.
But let me ask you something here. In 1990, the formation changed. Yes. And I would say it was a kind of a necessity at that particular point of time because the so-called high, caste chief minister had failed the system. And so there was a recognition and Laluji came, right? Now, thereafter, has there been a sufficient recognition of the backward class? Has it been reflected in anything, in jobs or anything? How do you look at it?
So I'll answer that, but let me just try and give you my perspective of what you just said. See, I would rather not say that the political leadership in Bihar was failing. I mean, after the first chief minister, the series of chief ministers, which particularly came from the Congress, except of few years of interlude from different parties, Daroga Prasad Rai and others.
Yeah.
I think they were all controlled from the center, and the center was not understanding the real situation of Bihar. And as he said, Bihar was getting into a poverty trap because of that freight equalization policy and similar policies. And the chief ministers were directly controlled from the center, which was not willing to understand the real issues of Bihar. So I would rather not say the failure of the chief ministers who were there per se, but I would rather say that, well, the kind of a federal politics that was being played in Bihar and in other states as well. That's one. Now, coming back to Lalu, Lalu came into power and because of a lot of factors, and I think the situational factor, was very important because a lot of people would say that VP Singh would not have loved, Mulayam to be a powerful chief minister, so therefore Lalu Prasad Yadav was pushed into this and all that. Now, when Lalu inherited power, he got to know that, well, you have a supportive center to start with. And so what he had was a 60% of population, and then of course coupled with the minority population. So he was ruling the roost because he had a sizable and a very strong vote base. And that meant that because there were no real attempts to have control on the institutions, the institutions started failing down. So you had criminalization of politics, politicization of crime, crime was a normal thing. So post Lalu, therefore, you'll see something happening in Bihar. So Nitish comes up and he takes a very transformational role. So I've said this in a small piece that I wrote. So Nitish Kumar starts his stint as a transformative leader who would speak of roads and electricity and good governance and Sushashan and bringing the bureaucracy back in. But within 5 years, he starts realizing that this is not going to serve the purpose because there's a lot of things to cover and elections happen every 5 years. So from 2010 onwards, he starts moving towards a transactional kind of a style where the caste basis, he already created a EBC vote bank.
So that's social engineering.
Yeah.
EBC.
So social engineering and then peppered with all sort of good words to talk about. But in reality, it's delivering in terms of, the votes that he's getting. But yes, the data tells you that industrialization, we lost on that. Bihar just has 11 to 12% of urbanization.
So, Chinki, let me ask you this. From Jungle Raj, now, are we in Mangal Raj or what have you seen? You have gone through all the villages. And what is the kind of reaction?
These strange anecdotes from the ground. I think, the Jungle Raj has continued to exist in Bihar. A lot of it was visible and very blatant back then, Lalu's time, but it's not like it went away. Like, look at the broad daylight murder of Dular Chand Yadav. Okay, so that had happened. 2-3 points I wanted to make was one, we did a caste issue just before this issue that has come out now, and where we came across a very interesting meme on social media. So some reporter had gone to one village and he asked this woman, आपके गांव में विकास आया? And she's like, विकास कौन जात का है? Now that itself sums up this entire thing in Bihar. Now, what is the caste of development? But actually, if you look at it, the development has a caste in Bihar as anything else, right? And who controls the development? Who is it for? All these questions will have to be kind of looked at. The other thing I wanted to respond to was the RJT giving ticket to Osama and all these other Bahubalis, and then Anand Singh getting a ticket. Now, it's an interesting thing because actually they have not been convicted. I mean, Anand Singh is a strange case because he walked out after having been jailed for Arms Act, and the Patna High Court kind of reversed the judgment. No evidence. Obviously, clearly, you'll not find any evidence in any of these cases because there is no political will to find anything. The other thing is that, by law, they can contest, right? But what happens, and this was explained to me by Abhayanand, who was the ADG and the DGP in Bihar when in 2005, when you asked if there was a time when Jungle Raj actually, there was a will to end it. Yes, there was, because Nitish Kumar first fought the 2005 elections on this plank. He said, I will end Jungle Raj. And that's when he approached Abhayanandan asked him कि आपको कितने पैसे चाहिए और कौन सा कानून चाहिए? To which he responded saying that हमको कुछ नहीं चाहिए. The laws are already there. They need to be implemented. And so, there were all these fast track courts. The Arms Act was implemented. Bails were cancelled, and a lot of these guys were sentenced. Now, the problem arises when you don't do trials, right? So technically, then the trial doesn't happen, and they are there, so they can contest. And this is a strange situation in Bihar because the trials have gone on forever, 28 years, 33 years. So in the meanwhile, you don't have a kind of like. You are able to contest the elections. So those are the few things, and caste obviously is a big factor in Bihar in everything. Now you see a certain kind of, wherever we stopped, when we met the Yadavs, you see a certain kind of aggression now again, and they will say कि भाई हम तो जाति में ही vote करेंगे. So what the discussion earlier was about all of these other factors, they actually fade into the background when the whole question about the caste comes. वो बोल रहे हैं कि वो हारे चाहे जीते हम उन्हीं को वोट देंगे. So that is one thing that, and these bahubalis actually also command a lot of this caste situations.
Okay, Vimal.
Muhammad Shahabuddin.
Yeah. Vimal, what do you describe the situation as, when many of the interviews which are conducted, Chinki has also gone all over Bihar, and there were many interviews conducted by the TV channels where the women said, हमें आधार के लिए इतना पैसा देना पड़ता है, राशन कार्ड में नाम ऐड करने के लिए इतना पैसा देना पड़ता है, इंदिरा आवास योजना के लिए जो किश्तें आती हैं उसमें पैसा देना पड़ता है. Look at the kind of a corruption we are talking about. Vandalism, bridges are breaking down, the roads are breaking down, metro has pan spits. And so how do you describe all this? Would you say that there's no will to improve, or there's a complete failure of governance, or there is no political will? How does Bihar go ahead?
Yeah, very interesting. But I will again go to my theory of the source and origin. Now, what we are talking about, that you can't get a mutation done unless you pay a particular sum of money per decimal or per kata.
That is transferring the
Normal. I buy the land from you. Now I go to get my name registered in the records, revenue records.
legitimate thing.
Now I'm talking about, not only talking about, say, Bihar, Jharkhand, even I have seen in Haryana and other states also. Whether it is the revenue system, the police systems, every place, it appears to me that people have been posted after money has exchanged hands. And if people are posted after money has exchanged hands, then what happens?
Recoup.
So this is the worst kind of corruption. At one point of time, they used to say ना कि अब मुगलों के regime में काजी लोग पैसा लेने लगे हैं. तो काजी लोग पैसा लेने लगे तो जस्टिस भी खत्म हो गई थी बात. अगर आपका ऑफिसर जो सब डिविजनल ऑफिसर है, जो आपका डिस्ट्रिक्ट मैजिस्ट्रेट है, आपका एसपी है, if he has come on basis of certain other considerations, and he will definitely not be able to give justice to people, he will not give corruption-free delivery system at the grassroots level, whom do you go and complain? And what actions will be taken? So these are questions of introspection, not just talking about कि ऐसा है तो है, क्यों है, कहां से शुरुआत, कहां खत्म?
नहीं, पर करप्शन सिर्फ बिहार में ही नहीं है.
हम तो बोला हरियाणा का नाम लिया मैंने.
Yes.
So let me, and nobody to condone that, right?
All
So
right.
corruption anywhere is wrong, and it is wrong. What is worse in Bihar is that, see, those people who can somehow manage themselves have moved out of Bihar. So anybody who comes from the lower middle class has actually moved out, even if it means that taking loans, sending people. See, the kind of people studying at Delhi University, JNU, and now to Bangalore and Pune. So the younger people, in search of a meaningful life, they moved out. So what is left is the residue, right? And this residue is comprising of all caste combinations. So it's not to say that only forwards are there or only the backward caste people are there. They're there. Now then the worst thing happens. So let's say in Haryana, when you go and the official there asks you money for changing the name, there is a generic kind of a prosperity there. So from there you can pay. In Bihar, it worsens because the economy is simply not there. The agricultural system is collapsed. Forget about the industry. We can't even talk about that. So there are a lot of problems in Bihar which get perpetuated by this corruption. So this corruption is worse in other places, but it deepens in Bihar.
Let me ask Chinki, there are two classes of Biharis who go out of Bihar. One is, of course, to study, as Chandrachur said, better opportunities. But there's a huge migration. I went to Tamil Nadu to, I think, Kaimor Cement, and on the side, there was a motel, small motel, and I went there and I asked them, what can I eat? And he said, litti chokha khayega. So he was a Bihari. And I said, mostly I've seen laborers here. He said, no, we have spread far and wide. We are even in the construction business. Now, this migration, Piyush Goyal the other day says that migration to khatam ho gaya, so Bihar's problem is solved. Now, many women who were interviewed, they said that we want, हम अपना छोकरा सबका चाहते हैं कि यहीं पे नौकरी लगे, फैक्ट्री यहीं पे खुले. So isn't that something really aspirational and legitimate? And what are they doing about it? Are they voting for a change, or they're saying कि नहीं, Nitish Babu अच्छे हैं? How do you look at all this together?
See, one thing that I've found on the ground is that actually there is no anti-incumbency in that sense, right? People really like Nitish. There's a lot of respect for Nitish, and they do want change, by the way. So migration is a problem. It has. I don't know how they're saying that the migration has ended. I don't think it ever ended. In fact, I was here in 2020. When the Bihar, the last assembly elections happened, and we traveled to a lot of these migrant corridors back then, and to look at the condition of the migrant workers who were returning home, barefoot, walking from Delhi, and the Bihar government actually was not allowing them to enter at that point in time. And after some point, they could come back to their villages. They were put in these quarantine centers. There was no facility, nothing. It was horrible, actually. You would have cried if you saw the situation. But they did vote for Nitish Kumar. See, the problem, what I feel is that there's this whole fear that is created, right, about this so-called Jungle Raj, which the younger lot have no idea about. Let's say, and you're right about the two kinds of people who migrate. Like, I'm from Bihar, so you grow up actually in Bihar knowing that you have to leave, right? So there is no that kind of thought in your head that, okay, I'm going to stay here. A lot of people have come back also, but that is the upper strata. For the poor, and I met some of these guys who are working in Gujarat for, let's say, 20,000, 15,000 rupees, 14,000 rupees. Now, this Jungle Raj term to them seems like some kind of a strange thing for which they don't want to be back again. I mean, they have no idea. Like my mother, we grew up here back then, and my school senior, actually college senior, Shilpi Jain, murder and rape case happened around that time. Now there are many questions that need to be asked. Why did that case never get solved? When I asked Abhyanand, he said, CBI se puchiye. Now, there are many of these kinds of things that are happening. Regarding industries, the BJP has now announced, the NDA, that they will open more mills. But there was a press conference in which the Union Home Minister Amit Shah said that Bihar mein zameen nahi hai, industry kaise hoga, just right around these election times. Now, that is a very interesting thing. So a lot of women, yes, you are right, they want people to be here. In fact, if you look at our folk songs, if you look at our new songs, it's all about migration. Somebody has gone there, how are they, when are they going to come back? I mean, this is who we are, and it's a labor export state, so it's not going to end anytime soon, by the way. So I don't know how and where we are going to go but a lot of it also has to do with there are a lot of things that are all together, caste, class, everything. And I think somehow they've not been able to figure out a way. If you look at the RJT and the CPI ML, right, they came together last time and they set aside their issue of land reforms to kind of look at this kind of solidarity to keep the BJP out. Now these are things that are happening, and rather than I have just one limited point to make. See, we see a lot of these panel discussions and a lot of forecasts and predictions and this and that. what I have experienced is people are not going to tell you everything. Like whenever I ask kisko vote de rahe, they'll say ki aap bataiye na kisko dete. So there is this silent situation, and there are these issues that people talk about, migration being one of them, but ultimately migration is also related to caste and class, which I think not many people are willing to.
Yes, Chandrachur, you say.
I'll tell you something. See, but this migration is now in all. So if you go around, just around Noida or any society, you'll see people of upper caste also, wearing those private guards, in dresses and all that. So that's happening there as well. To come back to what Chinki said, and I think there's a sociological thing there. So while one agrees that the law and order situation, so we do agree that it's not a Mangal Raj right now, but there's a problem. Why would people still not vote or still vote for Nitish Kumar? Is the understanding that, well, look at a caste called the Yadavs. Somewhere around 15%, 16% of Yadavs, constitute that population, right? Which is the single largest caste on a single identity, right? And when that comes back to the power or back to power and then comes with full throttle, there's every likelihood, and people fear at least, it may not happen. So I'm not saying that it will happen.
Yes, yeah.
But there is this apprehension that if that comes with that full swing, coupled with the other minority vote, then it will be the heydays of General Raj back again. And I think that fear itself, that apprehension, yes. What if, I think Vandita did a story in the Indian Express, that if somehow dilutes the anti-incumbency from getting into the kind of anger that is required but it's not to say that the people don't understand this, or else how do you explain the huge interest that Jan Suraj has created? So that Jan Suraj is actually speaking about the anguish, and remember the way Prashant Kishore is presenting himself as that anguished, Bihari. So that's why everybody looks at him, everybody understands him, everybody, empathizes with what he says. But then the fear that perhaps he might not be able to stop the MY, that is why they say, well, aap achhe to hai. It's like, one of the dialogues from Nasruddin Shah's movie says, well, pyar to hai, par shaadi nahi kar sakte. So I think that's something,
Vimal, your nephew is fighting against Osama. And there is a kind of a feeling amongst the youth that PK is raising the right voices. Why not support him? And some people say, no, we would love to support him, but he may not make a difference because he is not winning. So is the chicken or the egg? So how do you look at this phenomena in Bihar?
Well, I was reading somewhere and I agreed to what was written, is that, after a prolonged period of a mindset where resignation has come, that ye aisa hi hai, kuch nahi badlega, ye sab baatein वैसे ही चलेंगी. When somebody comes and says कि no, there can be a change, but you are the harbinger of that change. You have to come forward. One person's idea will not change. That belief takes time to come, depending on the proportion of the time which you have spent in despair. So if the time spent in despair is centuries, it takes time. You can't change in 1 year.
Okay, so let me start the last round with you only. Will Bihar only be a land of the IPS and the IAS? Will Bihar not forge ahead, and without forging ahead on economic front, how will it survive? For example, sources of income, it's completely dependent on the center. It wants a dole-out package. It wants a special status, but it does not remove prohibition. These are very, very basic things. It does not promote a tourism, setup, an architecture where it can earn a lot of money. So how do we go forward?
Very interesting question which you said. We are all talking about status. What is the status at ground reality? But we have to look for the solution. Yeah. And this mindset of getting a dole, I'll give you 2 examples. At a macro level, you will find all chief ministers having a file and an agenda. Special package, special package, special package. I'm very poor, give me special package. Macro level. Micro level, I'm giving you 10,000 rupees. Be happy. न तो वो मैक्रो लेवल एक बार में सुधरेगा और न ये 10,000, 5,000, 3,000, 4,000 से सुधरेगा. You will have to tell people that you will have to earn. You will have to, if you want to change the economy, you will have to earn. आप earn कैसे करेंगे? How will you earn? Either you do physical labor, or you do some cerebral work, or in social sector, combination of both. Be a tourist guide in that whole Buddha circuit. Take people, create infrastructure. So there's a lot of potential of tourism. There's a lot of potential of agro industries. Why should all kind of grains go out, get refined, sorted, packaged by somebody saying this is the best atta in town? Why can't this happen in Bihar? So agro industries is one. Improving the infrastructure in agriculture. I was reading, again, going through all these agricultural issues. In fact, I worked also in agriculture ministry. So the people who have to bring in the new implements, new kind of fertilizers, new kind of cash crops, they don't have the money. And people who have the money, they say, we don't want to do this. We are happy doing something else. So how things change? So now when somebody comes, Prashant Kishore or some new leader probably will come again and tell people that your तकदीर अपने हाथ से मेहनत करके और अपनी कमाई को बढ़ा के बढ़ेगी. किसी के 5,000, 10,000 रुपया देने से तुम्हारी तकदीर नहीं बदलेगी. किसी स्पेशल पैकेज से नहीं बनेगी. So this is, transformation from the status to solution.
Correct. Chinki, last round, your suggestions. What do we do for Bihar?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to suggest anything, but I have two responses. One is on Prashant Kishore. I feel Prashant Kishore's messaging was not very clear, firstly, in Bihar. And as some IS officer told me in Bihar, कि तुम शराब खाने में जाके दूध की बात करोगे तो तुमको कोई नहीं खरीदेगा. So, मतलब this is what it is. Wherever we have gone, I mean, see, it's okay to talk about all of these things, but they firstly is upper caste. I mean, it's very difficult, in this day and age where you've got Lalu, you've got Nitish, you've got that whole history of social justice, you've got the and also if you look at the Bihar ka caste situation, right? तो अगर हम ये बात करें कि भाई 10,000 जो भी नीतीश कुमार ने दिया और उसका बहुत पॉपुलर हुआ भी, is also if you look at the extreme poverty here. I mean, I have been in Bihar and in front of me children are jumping into nalas to catch mice, the Musahar community. जहाँ इस तरह की करीबी है और इस तरह का कास्ट सिचुएशन है, अगर हम उनको ये समझाएंगे कि भाई 10,000 में कुछ बदलने वाला नहीं, वो अभी नहीं काम करेगा फॉर श्योर. So I think that is one. The second thing is with regards to solution, I think a lot of development, which is visible development, flyovers, all of these things have been done. But it's a very funny situation. एक तरफ से अगर आप टूरिज्म बढ़ाने की कोशिश कर रहे हो और दूसरी तरफ से वही सरकार और वही अलायंस आके जंगल राज बोलेगा, तो बिहार में कौन जाएगा? I mean, so that is the situation. But all said and done, I think things can be done. Migration can be tackled. All those industries, that sugar mills, all of these things that shut down, I think there needs to be some kind of an action on that front. I think, but the first and the foremost thing is to actually look at the caste and the class situation. I mean, no two doubts about it. अगर आप लोगों को ऊपर नहीं उठाओगे, उनको dignity नहीं दोगे, which Lalu actually did to some extent, and वो बहुत I think जरूरी है. This is my only thing. I think first you have to look at that.
Chandrachur, last word to you.
You talk to developmental experts and they'll say agriculture में ये कर दो, industry आ जाएगा, food processing हो जाएगा, tourism में कर दो. They'll say everything, right? And experts are supposed to be saying everything. Right?
Niti Aayog has already done
ये सब
a
करता
study.
रहता है, right? And there's anecdotal evidence. I think go to some cities and some villages around Gaya, they prospered because of the Buddhism. But I think, and this is something which comes deep from my heart, and I think it might touch you, others as well. Do two things. Do nothing, but do two things. Because remember, development is going to take time. It's not a rocket thing that you do it in one go. It's not going to be one-stroke solution. I think if Bihar is able to stop the younger people from going to Pune and Bangalore and Delhi to study, I think the first and the foremost is just try and improve upon your education. See, Bihar has some very good private schools. I studied in a school called Notre Dame. I think you went to St. Michael's, right? Why can't those structures be replicated? If there's will, and I don't think caste comes in between. Any leader worth the name trying to do that will really get a lot of support. One. Two, try and improve upon the I think the health system, the health infrastructure. That's that. I mean, go to any hospital in Delhi, any hospital, private, public, semi-private, semi-public. I mean, all you find is on the corridors just people from Bihar and nobody else. And I think, really it makes me weep many a times. I mean, look at me, look at you. I mean, we live in 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 square feet cup space, a flat में रहते हैं. Look at our properties there. Look at the houses that our fathers built in there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think apart from agriculture, food processing, these are all there. But I think any government, Nitish did not do that. Lalu deliberately did not do that. I think it's the younger people and the younger people who will create their own destiny. And once that happens, Bihar will be on the track towards development. It may take 10 years or 20 years or so. Maybe by the time I'm dead, Bihar will rise up. Maybe by 2047, a Viksit Bihar will be in place. But it will not be in place if you don't touch these two things.
I'll tell you something which was told to me when I was Industry Secretary Jharkhand, that a team from Adityapur Industrial Area Development Authority, which is Jamshedpur, went to help the UP government to set up Noida. And this Noida, the whole concept of industrial area came from Jamshedpur. And in Jamshedpur, we had one of the best steel plants. It is our luck, because that was at that point of time, Bihar and Jharkhand were together, that a very enterprising person went to that area, Tatas, and they set up such a beautiful steel plant. You still go, that you will see that entire urban planning of that city is so good. It's so good. So there could have been a spread effect. There could have been a better logistics. So we are still capable of setting up something like, Noida on the basis of what Noida has done or Greater Noida has done. In fact, we were just talking about the flyovers and all that. I am a Patna resident. Basically, my father has a house in Patna. What has happened in Patna is that they have built, second level of flyovers, road below, road above. So now the road above also gets congested. So now nobody can move. You are on the first floor of a road and nobody is moving. What should have been done, which some IS officers or UP government did in Greater Noida, that you take lands about 15-20 kilometers away, set up a new city. So instead of having, that 3 layers of flyovers in Patna, you could have had a new capital, the Greater Patna, which was easily doable, which is still easily doable. So again, your vision has to go beyond just building like few flyovers.
It's not that the spread has not happened. So from Jamshedpur, it spread towards Bokaro, for example, which is again a planned city, right? Now, and then you go from Ranchi, you go to Jamshedpur by road, you'll see that just as you enter Adityapur, all the cars that you can see, all the big cars, they all have their showrooms lined up on that road itself.
Correct.
So, prosperity comes with one central industry and with the kind of ancillary units around it. And Bihar, it's not to say that, of course, Noida has the proximity to Delhi, and that is a great advantage. But it's not that Bihar doesn't have the kind of spaces that is required. Because remember, it's connected to the Chicken's Neck, it's connected towards Asansol. So, it could have taken the advantage of the nearby ports in Calcutta. It's just now that I think they are doing some container development systems somewhere near Patna. And I think what they did was that they allowed Patna to really become a hell in terms of urban space. Right?
Yes.
The entire city has, spread around.
City is surrounded by rivers. 5 lakh की आबादी थी, अब हो गई है 15 lakh. There is no way you can go.
Airports of city के अंदर आ गया. This is how the city has grown. The airport came inside.
So it's hell in Patna now. There's no future.
You thank them. Thank you so much. The extremely thought-provoking discussion. Thank you once again.